Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's talk Marvel Studios' Deadpool and Wolverine, but this time with spoilers. So that's right off the bat, spoiler warning. If you've not yet seen this movie, go check it out in theaters. It's definitely a theater experience you want to have. And also, if you haven't seen it, you can check out my non-spoiler review, which I posted a few days ago. Because of that, I am a little bit late to doing my spoiler review. Mainly because I've kind of been dreading doing this video because I didn't really know what to talk about because, there's the cameos, but this is a movie that I didn't completely love. And I'm definitely in the minority in that case because most people are absolutely loving this movie and saying it's the best MCU movie in years or possibly ever and blah, 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 all this stuff. And obviously I didn't hate it, I still enjoyed it, but it was still slightly disappointing to me. And that's, in some regards, my fault, just because expectations were maybe a little too high. But also, to be fair, when you have, reviewers saying like, oh, I admire my expectations high, and then this surpassed them, like, oh boy, this is like the best movie ever. Yeah, there's that. But then there's also actual genuine problems that I have with this movie as well that left me a little unsatisfied, to be completely honest. So here we are. We're going to talk about Deadpool and Wolverine with spoilers. And first of all, I just want to shout out the popcorn buckets for this movie look amazing, and I'm so disappointed that I'm not going to be able to get any of them most likely because I don't have any big theater chains around me, so they're not being sold anywhere. Literally, this is the one I wanted the most, which supposedly is the easiest one to get because, it was online at Regal, which sold out before I even have a chance to look at it. And then supposedly it's being sold at smaller theater chains. No, nothing near me. I don't have a Regal near me or a Cinemark or an AMC. So, I would love this popcorn bucket. I would love the Wolverine one as well. Just like the regular one, not necessarily the one designed by Deadpool. So, hey, if any of you guys were able to get your hands on this, maybe an extra one, maybe message me on Instagram or something, or email me, whatever, if we could hook something up. But anyway, let's talk Deadpool and Wolverine. I just want to start off the bat. Fantastic opening. I love the opening credits. The first two Deadpool movies already had great opening credits, but this one is by far the best and one of the best opening credit sequences of any movie I've seen. This was great. The dancing, the choreography was great. The song choice was great. I absolutely loved it. It really set me in for like, okay, this is going to be a fun movie. And also just speaking of that, the soundtrack overall for the film was really great. A lot of great songs in here. Some felt a little out of place, for sure. The song from Grease, You're the One That I Want, playing during a fight scene between Deadpool and Wolverine. It was cool and it was like funny at first, but it also felt a little weird. But for the most part, I really enjoy the song choices for this film. Now, my biggest issue with this film, and what a lot of people are saying are their minor gripes with this movie, is the story. The story is definitely lacking for sure, especially when you look at the first two Deadpool films where story is such a big part of it. I feel like with Deadpool and Wolverine, they really kind of sacrifice a lot of those story elements just for pure, not only cameos and nostalgia bait, but also just for laughs and jokes, which, to be fair, I don't blame Ryan Reynolds for not being able to help himself. He now has this brand new toy box to play with the MCU and Disney and the Fox merge and everything. So, and most of the comedy did land for me, so that was great. But yeah, just story-wise, I will say Deadpool and Wolverine, their story together, I really enjoyed. I really loved their dynamics. I loved how Hugh Jackman's Wolverine wasn't afraid to tell Wade to shut up and how he's being annoying and, he's a brat and all this stuff and he's a loser. That was great. And then by the end, how they come together and become friends and all that. I really enjoyed that. But separately, I found their stories to be a little lacking, particularly Deadpool. Because his whole motivation in this film is basically just that he wants to have a purpose. He wants worth in life. Which, it's not a bad storyline, but or bad motivation, but it just didn't feel super crucial or emphasized on enough. And also, it was really distracting me because, like, a day or two before, I watched Neighbors 2, where that is literally Zac Efron's same exact motivation and character arc in that movie. So seeing it again here was a little jarring. But again, it's not the movie's fault. They didn't expect me to watch Neighbors 2 the night before, but whatever. Wolverine, though, Hugh Jackman was great here. He slips right back into the role. Very different from his previous iterations of Wolverine, but so good. And his story, his personal story, I definitely enjoyed quite a bit more, but I still have issues with it. I like the fact that he let his whole world down, all of his X-Men died, but one of the things that really kind of killed me with it, and kind of left me without that emotional attachment, is because we didn't get to see it. And that's both from a perspective of, like, yes, I just wanted the cameos and I wanted to see all the Fox X-Men show up, because that was one of the things I was most blown away with this film, is that none of the Fox X-Men showed up. Like, this is supposed to be a love letter to the Fox universe, and we have all the other characters like Human Torch and Blade and Elektra and all that, but no X-Men. I was really surprised and really disappointed by that, especially because I rewatched every Fox X-Men film in preparation for this, and that got me absolutely nowhere. But so yeah, it would have been cool just to see the X-Men, but also it's just like a classic screenwriting 101 is show, don't tell. Because, I mean, they told us what happened, and, like, it was a little emotional. You had Hugh Jackman's monologue by the campfire. That was great and everything, but it would have been so much more heavy and so much more emotionally impactful if I got to actually see that, if I got to see him actually stumbling upon the X-Men being dead, and then going on that berserker rampage after that. But unfortunately, we just didn't get to that. I did also feel like the kind of backstory to that was a little anticlimactic as well, because I was expecting it to be like this big reveal, but then it's just, oh, the humans came, and Wolverine wasn't there. Like, this whole time I was expecting it to be like, from the trailers leading up to this, I expected it to be like a Wolverine accidentally killed the X-Men. Like, it was a long shot. I knew it was. But especially if they were going to go this route where they didn't even show it and they could have just told us, it would have been so cool if they referenced the comic storyline where Mysterio, like, mind-controlled Wolverine into killing the X-Men. That would have been so much more emotional and also just a cool comic reference. Again, whether they showed it or not, I would have appreciated that much more. But if they were just going to go this basic route of, oh, just the humans showed up, and how the hell did the humans defeat the X-Men? I don't know. But, whatever. It was still better than Deadpool's storyline. And boy, seeing him in the mask, though, that made it all worth it. That was great. The action scenes here were fantastic. So I really enjoyed that. There were a couple moments where his mask kind of just looked like CGI, but seeing him with the white eyes and all that looked really cool. So now let's talk cameos, which, again, I'm going to say, it's partially my fault, getting expectations a little too high. We already talked about the lack of Fox X-Men in this film. But also, with what I do here for this job of being a YouTuber and making videos about rumors and scoops and all that stuff, is like, you get most of the actual cameos spoiled for you by these scoopers, but then there's some other ones that they completely make up and lie about, so then you think that's going to be what you're going to see, and then you don't see that, and then it's disappointing. Like, for example, I heard a rumor that Aaron Taylor Johnson's Quicksilver was going to show up here. If he did, that probably would have been my favorite cameo of the film. That didn't happen. But anyway, let's talk cameos. Starting off with, honestly, probably my favorite sequence of the whole film at the beginning when we had our Multiverse Wolverine montage. That was absolutely brilliant, especially having The Power of Love playing. That was a fantastic song choice because I believe that was in Back to the Future, so that makes sense there. And just seeing mainly Hugh Jackman being most of these Wolverine versions, seeing him be just all of these different looks from different eras and storylines from the comics was absolutely brilliant and made me so happy as a comic fan. Seeing him as Patch, seeing him as, so 80s, the Age of Apocalypse look, and hilariously seeing him CGI'd to be super short, to be comics accurate height of Wolverine, which it looked terrible, but it was so funny, and that made me really happy right there. And hey, Henry Cavill as Wolverine, that was a great cameo as well. I really enjoyed that. I mean, he was a great Wolverine for those like 5 seconds we had him. That was really cool. But by far my favorite part of this though was seeing Hugh Jackman in the yellow and brown suit. That was absolutely brilliant. And then it just got better because then you saw the Hulk. I mean, it would have been awesome if we actually got to see like a few seconds of that fight there. But man, even just Hulk in the reflection of his claws was great. But this gets me really hyped and fingers crossed for a Hulk versus Wolverine movie, which there are rumors that may or may not be in development in Marvel Studios. Whether that would be with Hugh Jackman or not, I don't know. But just the idea of it sounds really, really cool to me. And then Jon Favreau showing up as Happy Hogan, that was cool. Just a cool little cameo. I put that kind of on par with like Aquaman's dad showing up in the Flash movie. But it did feel, and like it was a really funny scene. You know, Jon Favreau, always love seeing him show up. But it did feel very random and almost kind of forced because this took place before any of the multiverse stuff happened. So I have absolutely no idea how Deadpool even got into the MCU in the first place. I mean, you could argue that maybe perhaps Jon Favreau is also Happy Hogan in the Fox universe and that's what was happening there. I don't know. It was a little confusing, but whatever. I will say the Fox X-Men villains showing up was also a little disappointing as well. I mean, it was cool just to have the cameos, but also, I mean, the fact that you have like Sabretooth and Toad and Azazel and Lady Deathstrike, but no Fox X-Men, that was a little crazy to me. It was cool seeing them show up, but also disappointed that most of them weren't even the actual original actors, especially Juggernaut with the kind of minor-ish role that he played. Sabretooth was cool. But that fight literally lasted one slice to the neck, so that was a little anticlimactic as well. I loved Nice Pool. Nice Pool was hilarious. We saw set photos from that. Ryan Reynolds was hilarious as Nice Pool. Love the suit, all that. Love the whole thing with Dog Pool. That was great. But what I will say was disappointing was the Deadpool core as a whole, because this is something that was really hyped up in the marketing. We saw lots of merchandise for these characters, particularly Lady Deadpool and Baby Pool and Kid Pool and Head Pool and all those different characters. And it just felt like one of those things in the movie that was completely pointless because literally they showed up, there wasn't even much dialogue, and then it was just a fight scene, which I will admit it was a fantastic fight scene. I love the choreography for it and everything, and the camera choices and all that. But it just felt like a waste because they didn't do really anything, and they were really basically in just the one scene. And then especially the fact that these basically are kind of cameos, because you have Blake Lively as Lady Deadpool, you have Matthew McConaughey as Cowboy Deadpool, you have Nathan Fillion as the voice of Headpool, but then you don't really even acknowledge that in the film, especially because this whole time, you know, watching the trailers, there was this big theory going back and forth of like, oh, who's going to play Lady Deadpool? Who's going to be playing Lady Deadpool? And we all kind of guessed it was going to be Blake Lively, but I expected it to be this big reveal in the film that like she would take her mask off, but then she never did. So I totally believe that wasn't even them in the suits. They just did the voiceover, which, you know, from a saving money perspective makes sense. You know, they probably weren't even on set, but it so would have been cool to see Matthew McConaughey take off that mask. That would have been awesome. And yeah, then like Kid Pool and Baby Pool did like nothing. So yeah, it just felt like a bit of a waste, and very anticlimactic. Now as for the big cameos, seeing Chris Evans back as Johnny Storm was absolutely fantastic. That was great. I love his version of the Human Torch. Seeing him flame on, seeing him fly around was great. I mean, him being defeated by Pyro was a little disappointing. And then the way he was killed so easily and so fast. But it was all right. Elektra, Jennifer Garner, that was cool. I haven't seen that movie or the Daredevil Ben Affleck one, but I did really enjoy the joke of like, oh, Daredevil died, and he was like, oh, sorry for your loss. Oh no, it's fine. Obviously in reference to the divorce between Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck. That was great. Blade is another one that I haven't seen those movies, so it wasn't as exciting to me. It was still cool just because I know how iconic that is. But it's definitely something that other people I know certainly enjoyed more than I personally did. But then we have Daphne Keane as X-23. That was great to see her back. Kevin Feige said they revealed her in the trailer because she was part of a deep emotional core of the film, but really I don't think she was. I mean, she shared that one scene with Hugh Jackman at the campfire, and she really didn't do any talking. It was all him doing his monologue. So I didn't really feel like there was a huge emotional impact with her, especially for the fight scene. I mean, I like that she wore the sunglasses again from Logan, but would have been way cooler if she actually, especially since now she's the age of adult X-23 in the comics, would have been really cool if she actually wore her comics accurate suit, especially to see that side by side with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, but whatever. But man, Channing Tatum as Gambit was one of my favorite parts of this film. To finally live up to that promise, to finally get Channing Tatum in that role, because he was so excited about that movie and he loves that character so much. And the fact that it was turned into a joke, I didn't mind because it was so funny. I also just hearing Channing Tatum do that accent was absolutely brilliant. And the super comics accurate outfit, I mean, it looked a little ridiculous, but it was still so cool to see him playing with the cards and the baton, and it was just so much fun. I really enjoyed seeing him in the role and seeing this whole team together, just standing side by side. This is a great shot right here. That's great. That right there is really awesome. It makes me really happy. So yeah, that is my spoiler review for Marvel Studios' Deadpool and Wolverine. Again, I have many issues with this film, but for the most part, I still enjoyed it. I still had fun. I just feel like there was a lot of missed opportunities here. Probably the biggest disappointment for me was no Fox X-Men, especially because that was kind of the big cameo type thing I was expecting, is like there's going to be at least one Fox X-Men character here. Like, please, at least redeem James Marsden as Cyclops. But no, I guess not. But I still enjoyed it. Again, I still had fun. And I'm looking forward to seeing the X-Men in the MCU. Maybe we'll see more of those cameos, more of those Fox X-Men pop up in Secret Wars. Maybe they're saving it for that. That is kind of what it felt like, so we'll see. But Hugh Jackman coming back as Wolverine was great to see. I have no doubt that he will return again for at least Secret Wars, maybe in Avengers 5. And obviously Ryan Reynolds will most likely be back as Deadpool as well. So guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think about Marvel Studios' Deadpool and Wolverine? I did mention in my non-spoiler review I was going to do a cameo ranking. I've scrapped that idea because I basically kind of already did that here in this video, so that I didn't really see a point to that. But yeah, so anyway, thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video and hit the subscribe button so I keep you up to date on everything that goes on in the Marvel life.